Hello everyone. So for this week energetically, we are still in the midst of this eclipse season where we are leading towards the second eclipse out of 3. I did mention in my last video that it's not as common to have 3 eclipses, so eclipses are already on their own intense, so you can expect that extra intensity. But it's a bit of two things because there's a feeling of great acceleration. Have you been feeling that? Like things are speeding up, things are rapidly speeding along. There's a sense of time speeding up. There's a sense of things moving forward in a weird and unusual way. And at the same time, you're still feeling that sense that is a carry on from this sort of COVID-19 situation the last few months of a gap or a void. And now that we're in this eclipse portal, which is very much like a portal, and I see it as a tunnel, and it's not a time to have tunnel vision, but rather think of it as there being a gateway within that tunnel, like an access point. So the beginning of this week, you might feel a sense of being a bit buzzed up, a bit of adrenaline energy, or like you're having restless nights, you can't sleep, you're feeling very sort of insomniac-like. So put that energy into good use. So that's how this week kind of kicks off. But at the same time, keep in mind that the energies of recent times and moving forward, if there is a lot of insomnia, restlessness, vivid dreams, like I mentioned in my last video also. For me, it feels like an active subconscious mind working overtime, not just, and I'm seeing, they're sort of saying like painted on the landscape. So what do they mean by that? As if there were symbols in the air which our subconscious mind picks up on, interprets, processes. And let's call them firstly cosmic signs or symbols. Then on top of that, they're saying is imprinted, a kind of collective energy. Then on top of that, again, imprinted another layer of symbols through mass media, through, it really, the word that comes up, the ugly, right? The ugly events that are happening, the uncomfortable situations, the people also in greed, in power, the chaos, that kind of feeling of also protest rallies. I'm definitely feeling there's going to be more of that kind of thing down the track also, like rallies, that kind of thing. So even though I'm talking about this week, it really is a sense of speaking about what's happening after that as well, because it's not like this is just one little piece of a giant jigsaw puzzle, and I feel that we need to see the whole board, not just this 1 week piece, right? So the whole board of the jigsaw puzzle is the overall picture. And there is one that is happening, and the jigsaw pieces are coming together, even though it hasn't necessarily felt like that for a lot of people. So you can utilize this energy to hone in on what it really is you want to do and really focus on that thing. So if you've got one particular project or work item or several things needing to be done, really focus in on them. Not so much starting something new, also because we have Mercury retrograde that is kicking in on the 17th. So, and that is in Cancer as well. And there's been quite a lot of sort of this Cancer energy has been a bit of a theme. And it really has been a lot about family, home, frustrations of relationships, connections between people, disconnect. It's this whole theme is sort of can potentially come up to an explosive sort of eruption. So we are now leading towards this next eclipse, which is around the 20th or 21st, depending where you are, solar eclipse in Cancer. So expect some possible disruption, challenge, the whole idea of emotions running high Okay, so you might have momentary loss of control of the mind and emotions. So if you feel like you're snappy or you're going crazy or people around you, then you know why. Okay, so just take care of yourself. Remember that. So as you walk through this tunnel and you enter that gateway, you are also taking care of yourself, nourishing yourself, and you are in a more observative mode rather than being right there in the chaos. So for example, recent events with, all these things that are happening and the Black Matters thing and all of that, I don't really want to go into it. But for me, I felt like it was the more, I guess the word that comes in mind is mature thing. So spiritually mature or personally mature thing, or energetically mature thing would be the better phrase, to step out, rise above, observe from a distance, not get into all of it, right? And it's not just that matter. There are many matters, right, that are happening that are important. Sometimes when we only focus on one thing, or we, feel the rage or the collective sort of rage, then we are not in our right minds. And so we need to step out of that bubble. Okay, so they're showing me a bit of a funny scene now. So imagine, being in for example, a psychiatric unit and being in the midst of this kind of psychiatric chaos of many people. Or would you feel more, and imagine what that feels like, right? And that rush, and kind of like too, being in New York City in peak hour and crossing those big intersections, right? Where there's like millions of people crossing in all directions. So you could analogize it to that as well. Or would you rather sort of stand to the side, observe, and maybe wait for the next the next traffic lights, right? Okay, so that's kind of what they're saying. Don't get lost in the huddle. That's exactly what they're saying, which is really interesting. So all these things are happening right now. The world is crazy. Someone turned on the crazy button, right? But it has been for some time anyway. It's just, what the difference is that the energies or certain situations are shining a light on things. I think I did mention in my last video, it's like when you shine a light, into, for example, under a rock, and then all the little critters crawl out, right? So that's what it's like. So all this crazy thing with these critters crawling around everywhere and noticing the craziness is a sign that you are indeed sane, even though you feel insane. So outside of all that, because not all of us are feeling that way, or we might just have moments of it, we need to remember that it's not only just Mercury in retrograde happening. We have, so many retrogrades that have been really sort of in the back end of our lives. And the angels are making a bit of a joke now, a bit of analogy of, to think of it as this retrograde cycle and season. We do need to go into it's like being in the back end of a computer, right? Or a program. And you need to sort of work things out, right? They're saying you can't appear on the screen of life until you have fiddled around with bits and pieces, fixed what needs to be fixed, seen what needs to be seen, right? So see the little electrical problem. I'm feeling like there's a lot of analogies to electrical issues. Well, that's funny because that really does match with the Mercury retrograde thing, because we often have those kind of things like computer glitches and malfunctions, but they're using it as a symbol, as a metaphor for something beyond that. It's not just the Mercury retrograde, it's the other retrogrades, it's the eclipses, it's just everything, okay, where we're at. So we need to, dare to dive deep, go to the back end of our lives, of our mind, of our cupboards, right, metaphorically, if not literally, because it's a good time to clear out cupboards too, mind you, and in all zones and spheres of our life, work, relationships, love life, family, all the aspects, right? Self. dig and dive deep into that. And they're showing me it's like a closet of the subconscious mind, and you need to go into that little closet. You know, we talk about coming out of the closet, and they're just making a joke. Actually, no, go back in the closet. That's actually quite funny. So go in your little closet, incubate, go for walks, and be conscious of the closet of your mind, right? And we're not saying with the closet, close yourself in to the point of that it's, you know, deafening and limiting and all those things. It's incubating, just like the idea of the winter hibernation of the bear, which actually brings up that we have the solstice that is coinciding with this solar eclipse this upcoming weekend, okay? So for those of us down under, it really is the winter hibernation season. And for those of you in the northern hemisphere, you will be celebrating that sense of, well, maybe not celebrating. They're making a joke. You feel like you maybe should be celebrating, but you can't. It's like, so I just finished my sentence. I meant to say celebrating the idea of the summer season, right? And that new sense of season, new beginnings, the sun, the freshness, the beaches, all those glorious things that we associate summer with and sun energy with. And yet there's limitations and you can't celebrate it. So they're saying it's like it's like it's time for your birthday party, but nobody arrives to your birthday, or, you know, the big plan didn't go ahead and you end up just dining alone, right, in a little old diner somewhere. So even though things are changing and socially, you know, the so-called rules, these COVID rules are expanding to more socialization slowly and in steps, there's also a feeling of withdrawal and that not feeling like this is going to last or that it's going to chop and change. So it's not the full expression, and also not being able to go, you know, travel and all that kind of thing. So, you know, it's like somebody put a lid on things, right, and put a lid on us. And at the same time, there's this rising energies of, hang on a minute, we don't want a lid on us. The lid is coming off. The light is shining on the lid. The light is saying, take off every single lid. And that really goes back to a video I made a little while back, something to do with, forgotten the title, but we live in a container, something like that. It was this kind of container box theme of how we have all these boxes. It would be quite worth looking back on at this point if you feel inclined, because it's about being in a box and coming out of a box, which comes back to the analogy of the cupboard. The reason they're saying too is they're making a bit of, angels are so funny, they're sort of laughing, right, and they're filling me with that spirit, but they're saying, don't worry, you don't have to stay in that box, in that cupboard forever. Okay, but dare to go in the cupboard. You know, people say dare to come out of the cupboard, but actually they're saying dare to go in the cupboard, because so many people don't want to either look at that cupboard that's jam-packed with dusty old clothes and containers and filled up to the brim. When you open the door, it's going to spill out. They don't want to go to that back recesses of their mind, to the memories. They don't want to go back to the troubles, the issues, okay? Whether that's things that come up, reminders of the past, parental issues, old wounds, childhood wounds, marital wounds, wounds with your children, wounds with yourself, wounds with your inner spirit, any wound. They're showing me now the image of a lion licking its paw. So don't worry. They're saying two things. After all this, you know, you got to go backwards to go forwards, and then you will lick your wounds and will be the healing will arise, right? So you got to go in the cupboard to then come out of the cupboard. And they're saying then when you come out of the cupboard, it's like you're making a grand statement. And then, you know, there'll be times when the light is so high. So amongst all of this, there is this great sense of energetic gateway, the bringing in of the new, a new dawn, a new season on the horizon. However, it is just that on the horizon. It doesn't feel accessible, okay? So they're saying now it's like looking for the the end of the rainbow and you can never find the darn thing, right? And then you think you're getting closer to the rainbow, and then it still seems so aloof or far away and out of reach. And they're saying now, oh, what a beautiful message. The rainbow lives in your heart, okay? The rainbow is in your heart, just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. You had it all along. It's within you. So go within the heart now. Do you feel that? Because my heart is I'm just really feeling that heart energy. That's the key. Keep the love in your heart. Feel that love. Feel that towards your family. Drop things. So for example, if you just feel like, a child needs you a bit extra, mums have that intuition at those times. Drop everything for that moment and or think in your mind, okay, noted, and when I have a moment later, I'm going to do something with that child or do something that makes them happy or whatever. That's just like a little pearl of an example. It's following that heart and that instinct. And then also when you're in that heart instinct knowing, then two things. One is they're bringing back the rainbow. Then they're saying it connects also to the chakras. Okay, and the heart, as I've told you in a prior, about 2 videos roughly back, that it is the center. Then we have the 3 main chakras below and above it, right? So it's like a portal. They're saying it's like a portal, like a gateway, and then that brings up the whole eclipse thing again. So see how everything's connected. So now they're saying that vision that I gave you at the beginning of walking through that tunnel, be in your rainbow heart portal. Be in that heart instinct. And when you have that heart instinct, there's a knowing. There's a sense of observing, knowing, walking with wisdom. Your head is high in the way of higher, closer to spirit. And also, but your heart is linked to spirit, but it's also very internal, very inside of yourself. And they add the Cancerian notion, the Cancer, of that heart, home, family. They're adding faith, seeing the number 7. As you walk through that portal, and they're showing me now you're holding a doll or a soft toy. So like a soft toy that you had as a child. Okay, or something important to you, something of value, something that represents you or your inner child or your true self, something very personal to you. Hold that, and it can be your comfort zone, your little your comfort blanket. It's all good, all is well. And as you walk along, remember, see how the emotions can go up and down, because when we start to talk about those things, the emotions can go down, and also to think of sort of sad memories and wounds. I did mention the wound. Okay, so now rise up, dear one. Rise up. Okay, shine on. Okay, now walk through that portal gateway. Can you visualize it? So close your eyes now, or come back later and do this. Visualize yourself at the eve, the entranceway of a portal. And it's a tunnel, and as you walk through, your head's high, you have spirit, you have your heart, you have your wisdom, and you're observing, not absorbing. You're outside of the world zone, you're outside of the collective energy, you're in this portal. And as you're walking along, you see a gateway. You might want to have some of you might feel a slight hesitation, like, or should I go back, right? Kind of like the analogy of the people who have near-death experiences, and they have to decide, it's so good here in heaven. I don't want to go. And look, there's my loved ones. This is beautiful. And look, oh my gosh, Jesus. And then there's this calling of the lower earth plane, right? And it's like, I don't want to go back. It's so hard. But then perhaps you got family, things still left to do, and you go back. It's like sucks you back. And then you're in that hospital bed. And then you might have a depression, kind of like postnatal depression afterwards, because you were in such a high and now it's a low. Or you might be sustained with this fulfillment and this amazing, the post effect of a heightened spiritual experience, but both will carry with you within your heart. So carry the seed of that same thing within you as a courage, as a badge to move forward, as if you had had a metaphorical near-death experience and now you recognize the difference and that you're at the eve, you're at a turning point, and now you walk forward. You walk forward, and if you notice you're dragging things with you, your emotional baggage, things like that, then you know that there's things you need to work on still in your little cupboard. Okay, and as you walk forward, you see that gateway. All right, and now you can picture stepping over any little barricades, and then as you enter that gateway, a whole new world and big expanse just opens up, and you feel free, clear, at peace, your heart with a sense of knowing, faith. And now it's like you could hear the birds, and you return back to the space of earth, feeling a sense of presence and omnipresence. And there you are. That is the energy to carry you forward. And remember, with a sense of faith, knowing, wisdom, observing.